Hello folks, we're back with this Techko paper shredder, video part 2, and I was thinking and pondering the use of this big fan, and then got to thinking how crude that would be to have it on the outside here on these holes. So I pondered and did some research and found Mauser online had the same size fan. It's these. They're made by ADDA, A-D-D-A, I guess that's how you say that. And they're a little bit less current. It's supposed to have a high-pro bearing. It's supposed to be a good type of bearing. These here that I'm having trouble with just have a sleeve bearing, and they give me quite a bit of trouble. So I'm going to swap these fans out and try them out and see what happens. Pretty simple to swap these out. All I'm going to do is take these screws out and then put the other fan onto this bracket, and I already measured it. It's a 50 millimeter fan, 50 millimeters square, and then 10 millimeters wide, I believe is what they call that. And then on the top of this fan they have the rotation going this direction and the air is going this direction, so I need to mount it the same way. I need to make sure that this bracket is on the air intake instead of the air outlet. And this fan, if we run the wires at the top of the motor, I need to mount it on the bracket just like this, same way the other one is. So it's not too difficult to change these out of the bracket. You just have to unscrew these screws and take them out. These you can pick these new fans up for about $8, so it's not too bad. It'll save you a little bit of time and a lot of less effort. Just go ahead and replacing the fans that were in it. I was going to try to do something with what I had, and come to find out it was a little more difficult than what I thought. So we're going to replace these. I'm going to replace the other one, and we're going to test it out, see how it works. Okay, we've got the new fans installed, all mounted in. There's this one that the blades are broke on this side, and this is the new fan for it. And here's the other new fan. And then the wiring, I routed through these connectors. It was there from the factory, and they run down through here, and I put in quick disconnects right here, and these will aid in further service next time if I have to take the shredder unit out. These wires actually pass through there, and it'll help me to disconnect that later. But as you can see, these fans are running. Not very noisy either, so I'm real pleased with that. They draw less current than the other fans, and still blow enough air out to evacuate warm air out of this shredder chamber. So the fans are in. Next is to work on the circuit board. Alright, we're working on the circuit board now. Right here where this dark spot is where the resistor was too close to the board, and it gets pretty hot. Now I only had a 1-watt resistor in there, and it gets really hot. And it was too close to the board here, and it's actually had overheated the trace, so when I went to remove this resistor, the trace peeled from the board. But thank goodness the trace was close by, so I was able to scrape some of this epoxy coating off and bend the lead over and actually solder it down to this trace here and actually get it to work. I'll show you in a minute. I didn't use a 1-watt resistor, but I used a 5-watt wire wound. I figure I had it on hand, and it would be great. Maybe wouldn't get as hot as 1-watt did, and dissipate a little better heat, being ceramic. But right now, I wanted these fans to run, as you know, anytime the switch is on. So what I'm going to do here is disconnect this wire. This wire runs to the main shredder motor, and that's the only time the fans would run. So I'm going to desolder this one now. This one here is the one lead coming in from the main power connector coming in. This is one lead to the 12-volt transformer, and I'm going to remove this one since we've connected it into the switch. So right now I'm going to desolder this wire from the board. These two pins here are connected together. And I'm going to leave them connected here. I might have to add a speck of solder to that. I don't like the way that looks. I'm particular about things. So I'm going to add a speck of solder to that. There we go. That looks a lot better. Nice and shiny. Good connection. Alright, so that wire's removed. Let me take this board out of the vise here and show you what I've done. Turn it over. Alright, here's where the 1-watt resistor was. Now I've got a 220 ohm 5-watt. I actually read the resistor wrong that was in the unit. Here is the resistor. This resistor has gotten so hot I could not tell it was a red band. If I look at it close enough, I can make it out part way. But it looks like it's brown, black, brown with a little bit lighter brown on the bottom color band. It's actually red, black, brown. So this is a 200 ohm resistor. It measures about 195. So it's a 10% resistor, give or take 10%. So 200 and 10% of that would be 220. And that's what I had on hand in this Zycon wire wound 5-watt resistor. So I'm going to use this. I've got this kind of catty corner in, so it will fit. It works so far. It does get warm, but not too hot. I can't touch it or hold my finger on it while it's in operation. So hopefully this will solve our heat problem, and it's well enough off the board down here that it won't cause any more circuit board damage. So that's as far as we've got with the circuit board. After this, I'm going to install the circuit board back in. I've got the pigtail connectors on these wires, which will make it easier for servicing in the future. So I don't have to cut wires or desolder wires and keep soldering and desoldering them. I can actually just unplug them and clean the unit out and put it all back together. Alright, we'll be right back just real quick and look at the shredder unit itself. Okay, I've taken the plate off that covered the gear train here. Now on the front, again, sticking through that plate was 2 bearings. This one comes off, just like that. Okay, and there's the bearing. We're going to sit that back so we don't lose it. Okay, and there's another bearing right here on the front of this shaft. Take this off and set it back out of the way. Alright, now this main gear here should just come right out, should pull out. It should just slide out. There it came, with the bearing on the other side. There's the bearing on the other side. Okay, so that gear's out. I've taken pictures of this so I know how to get it back together. I'm going to lay this gear to the side. And then this little plastic gear here will come off as well, and there's another bearing. I don't think it will come out, it's pressed in. But that gives us a little more access to some of our parts and pieces. And then next is to get this one drive gear off. It's connected to the bottom gear, and then there's this one here. And this gear is actually held on with pressure from this main gear. That's the only thing that's holding this one on. If you see, let me get back up here a little bit. It's loose. It just rides on this shaft here via this gear holding it on. So let's see if we can get this clip. I'm going to try to get this clip out and then work on getting these gears apart. Be right back. Alright, here's the gears, been cleaned and greased, and the plate's back on, bearings installed. I said white lithium, I don't know what I was thinking. It's actually a lithium high performance grease from the auto parts store. Extreme pressure grease, because there's a lot of pressure on these bearings. I saw one of the main drive bearings in the bottom had a little bit of wear, a little more wear than I thought should be on the gears. So this grease might work pretty good. This red grease. Well, we've got the gears greased, and we've got the main chassis lubricated. And we've got the little gears over here greased up as well. So we've got that taken care of. Next up, we're going to get it set down into the chassis set back in the bottom, and get everything hooked back up. Be right back. Okay, here we are in the final stages. We've got the shredder unit installed. Everything's wired back up the way it's supposed to be. The fan's hooked in, and you see I've added these connectors in, so later on, if I have to service it, I can disassemble it real easy without having to cut and splice wires back together. Alright, everything is together. The gears have been greased with this red extreme pressure lithium grease to help it work a little longer and last a little longer and run a little better. Alright, so here we go. We're going to give us a test run. I'm going to pick it up just slightly and turn the switch on, and let's listen. The fans should come on. If the fans come on, then we've got it wired the way we want to, and then I'll switch it to reverse just to make sure. So here's forward. I don't know if you can hear that, but the fans are running. Off. Reverse. We've got fans both ways. So that was one of our main goals when we started, to get that done and then get all this cleaned up and greased up. So I'm going to turn it back on forward. Okay, down under here in the paper shred path, I've got a little piece of paper just barely stuck in enough to cover the sensor, but not enough to get shredded yet. And I'm going to manually operate this switch over here on the other side. It's over here on the other cover. If I can get over here. It's over here. This switch right here. I'm actually going to take a screwdriver and manipulate this switch. This is the drawer switch to stop the unit when the drawer is pulled open. And so I'm going to operate it. It won't operate unless the switch is pressed in, which is a safety feature. You don't want paper running everywhere when you shred it. So here we go. We're in the forward position, and I'm going to initiate the switch, and let's see if it runs. Yay! It's working. And if you can see how this, turn it back on again. See how this runs here? It's going to pull the paper through. I'm slipping off the switch. You see how it runs all the way down? That's how the paper comes through and gets shredded on this side going out the bottom. So there's forward. Runs good. Fans are still running. Smooth operation. So I'm going to stop this and I'm going to put it in reverse, and let's try that. Off. Reverse. Alright, let's make sure now it should be going this way. And now they're going this way, and this will pull the paper out if it gets jammed up. So this is working. So we thank the Lord for that that's working. I want to try one more thing. I'm going to switch back to forward. And there's a paper sensor when the bin gets full. Let me show you here. If you can see it, there's this wire here that runs down to here. There's a paper sensor right here, and this senses when the bin gets full, it'll actually turn the shredding unit off. So let's give that a shot, see if that works, see if that'll turn us off. I'm going to stick a piece of paper in front of it while I've got it running. So here we go. We're going to turn the switch on. Alright, I'm going to put a piece of paper in it. It works. One more time. Alright, the bin's going to get full. Operation is successful. So, we'll do one last step here. I'm going to finish assembling this unit. Get it all put back together. Make sure all the wires are tied down where they should be. Put the covers back on, and we're going to sit it on top of the unit, and we'll show you one test run, final run of it chewing up paper. Be right back. Okay, here we are in the final run. We've got it assembled, reassembled. Its power's on, it's in auto or forward, and the fans are running. Stick a sheet of paper, see what happens. Aha! Working? Okay. One more. Alright, so it works. So we've learned a few things with this machine. We took it apart and we found that the fans wouldn't run all the time, so we fixed that. The fans are on right now. We'll evacuate warm air out. And then also we looked at the circuit board and found a resistor too close to the board when it was installed at the factory. Otherwise, it was, in other words, it was heating the board up too much, and it ruined the trace. So what I've done is I've put instead of a 200 ohm 1 watt metal oxide resistor, I put a 220 ohm 5 watt wire wound resistor and put it off of the board, so it'll have a little more airspace to cool. So I believe that'll take care of it, and it should run another 10 years maybe. I pray so. It's been a very good shredder. And thank you so much for watching this series. And give me some comments if you have any, or any likes. And I thank you so much for watching. God bless.